Now, is it OK to say that your kids' exams are stressing you out? Responding to a radio item this week offering help and advice for parents during exam season, Kirstie Allsopp wrote, "Being stressed out by your kids' exams is the ultimate example of modern parenting, and it is pretty pathetic. We're not the ones taking the exams, we are adults. It's self-indulgent and unhelpful." Well, she doesn't miss and hit the wall, does Kirstie, does she? What do you think, Judi?
I mean, it was hard work giving birth to him, so I think we're allowed to be a little bit stressed. Look, don't get me wrong, you know, I've got my son's doing his GCSEs now, and I have found it stressful, and I don't find it self-indulgent. I think it's the reality of being a parent. I'm not saying if you're not stressed, you're not fully involved, but everyone has different ways of handling it. I think if your child doesn't do well or is worrying about it, you take that on naturally. And you know to yourself, like, if they want particular grades because they want to go to a particular college, if they don't get that, then you as the parent have to handle the fallout of them emotionally, of trying to find a new college. So I think it's reality for me. I feel stressed and worried about it, and I want to guide him through it in the best way I can. But I don't show him that I'm stressed about it in that sense, because, yes, you have to kind of be the parent that contain it. But I think we should be allowed to feel what we're feeling when we're seeing our children face a particular time in their life, which is important. Yeah. Whether they want to do it or not, it's a significant time in their life.
Yeah. And I think times have changed. I mean, I don't know exactly. We did reach out to Kirstie, but she didn't get back to us. I don't know exactly what she was referring to there.
The way it's written is a bit vague, because when I'm looking at it again now, I'm thinking, because you could take it of like, well, you wouldn't worry because you're coming from a position of privilege or whatever, and which a lot of people aren't. But actually looking at it again, I think what she means is it is stressful, but what you don't want to do as a parent is put your stress
onto your kids.
Onto your kids who are already stressed.
Yeah, and you were saying, Judi, that you wouldn't do that. You have your stress in private.
Yeah. I mean, that was really great, and I'll go to my room and be like,
I know.
But he knows that I handle it, and more importantly, I'm just here for him.
But see, I mean, I don't think my mum ever got stressed about my exams. I mean, one of my biggest memories I was a real studier, and I used to study in the local library.
That's why she didn't get stressed.
Well, I suppose I would study in the local library, and I always have this vision of my mum knocking on the window from outside saying, "Come on, Kay, stop studying, Dallas is coming on." And so she would, because it was just different times, wasn't it? Did you?
I mean, I didn't study. I have to hold my hands up. I did not study. But my mum, who was a teacher, I don't recall her ever sort of saying to me, "Have you got everything ready?" It was just like, "Oh, yeah, it's your exams next week, isn't it?" I don't remember her putting any pressure or expectation on me at all. But times have changed, right? Because the employment picture now is that you can't get a job and if you haven't got English and maths GCSE, and you know, it's a race. It's a race against time, and so I can understand why people feel a lot more pressured.
And therein lies the dichotomy, really, because it's understandable that you want your children to do well, and it's human nature to want to do well in their exams, and you encourage them to go to the room and to study. But as you say, times have changed, and nowadays they might get great ratings at university, and yet there isn't a job for them at the end of it, because you read about that quite a lot. That a lot of people with great degrees, they can't get a job. But I remember there's a professor called Professor Ted Ragg, and he was at Exeter University. And I remember he came on a programme I was doing on the radio every time it was exam time. And he would say, look, natural for parents to want them to do well, but he said, please, don't just sort of tell them to go to the bedroom and stay there all the time. He said, really, you can only absorb when you're studying for about 45 minutes. He said, if you want to be a good parent, go in and say, look, here's a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, or do you want to come for a walk around the garden? Take a break. Because he said 45 minutes is roughly the length of time for absorbing stuff. So I thought that was really very good advice.
I definitely try to give
no matter how stressed you are.
Exactly, try and give my son a break. But I do think as well what impacts is, you know, for me as well, culture, your economical status, things like that impact, because you might have a different worry of why you want your child to try and do as best as they can at that period.
And we've always been told that education elevates you, haven't we? That's always been the message.
And I think this period, for me, I think it definitely makes me think about helping my children to understand that this is a point where they learn a little bit about independence, a little bit more. You've got to set that alarm to get up on time. You've got to reach there half an hour early, because those little skills, not necessarily just getting the qualification, those skills are life skills that they can use and be transferable in different areas of their life, whether they are self-employed, whether they work for somebody else, it doesn't matter. So I think that's what really is on my mind.
Punctuality, reliability, eye contact, holding a conversation, nice to be around.
Exactly.
All of those are fantastic.
But having said that, is it still important to you that they do as well and get those qualifications?
Well, I do. I definitely, you know, want my children to go to university and, you know...
And get lots of student debt.
Yeah, well, you know, Mummy worked hard to try and support them in that. But I think, like I say, culturally, for me, I'm raising, you know, I know some people would, oh, you're race, but that's my reality. For me, as a woman raising 2 black children, I know that there's certain odds against them, and I would want them to have as much opportunity as possible. And if that is education, that might open more doors, then so be it. I will support them in that way. If that is a business, then so be it. I will support them. But across the boards, we've seen that there is some disadvantages for working class children and children of ethnic background. So I think I will always push in those areas.